A werewolf shifter romance audiobook written by Jane. The scent of blood, coppery and raw, choked Seraphina. She clawed at the air, a silent scream tearing her throat, only to bolt upright in bed, heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Cold sweat plastered her hair to her temples. It was that dream again, vivid and terrifying, of golden eyes, a primal roar, and shadows dancing beneath a monstrous moon. Every breath she took felt shallow, because the lingering dread was a physical weight. Truth be told, she hated these dreams. "Rena, are you up, sleepyhead?" Her sister Lily chirped from the kitchen, her voice a cheerful counterpoint to the nightmare's lingering tendrils. Lily, bright and oblivious, her biggest concern being whether her toast would burn. And just like that, the mundane reality of burnt toast and school lunches yanked Seraphina back. She needed this normalcy. She craved it, because it was her anchor. No matter how hard she tried, the visions persisted, a constant hum beneath her skin. As a result, her life had become a careful performance of ordinariness. Seraphina swung her legs over the side of the bed, the chill of the floor grounding her. Her small room, cluttered with art supplies and worn paperbacks, offered no comfort. She didn't know what scared her more, the terrifying clarity of the dreams or the fear of what they truly meant. Because of that, she pushed them down deep inside, where they couldn't hurt anyone. Her initial goal, every single day, was simply to survive without revealing the strangeness that plagued her. She inhaled deeply, trying to banish the primal fear. Soon after, she was in the small kitchen, the aroma of burnt toast and her mother's weak tea filling the air. Her mother, Sarah, sat at the table, frail hands wrapped around a mug, a faint tremor in her fingers. Years of unexplained illness had taken their toll because life hadn't been kind since their father vanished. That's why Seraphina worked 2 jobs, piecing together their fractured existence. "Morning, Mom. Lily. No toast casualties today, I hope." Seraphina forced a bright smile, because her family deserved her strength. Lily giggled, eyes bright. "Nope. See? I'm getting better." More importantly, Seraphina felt a familiar protective ache deep in her chest. Her greatest fear wasn't for herself, it was for them. She had to shield them from the shadows that flickered at the edges of her perception. Maybe it was fate that she saw these things, but she wished it wasn't. As a result, she'd learned to live with a constant low-level hum of anxiety, a whisper of a forgotten legend she desperately wanted to remain just that. A whisper. As the silence stretched, she caught her mother's distant gaze, a flicker of something ancient and knowing in her tired eyes, a sensation that pulled Seraphina deeper into an unsettling mystery she couldn't yet name. The old bookstore was Seraphina's sanctuary, a quiet refuge from the chaotic whispers of her mind. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight slicing through tall windows, illuminating rows of forgotten stories. Here, among the comforting scent of old paper and leather, her primary goal was simply to earn enough to keep their tiny apartment, to keep her family afloat. But then, a sharp, cold dread, like a shard of ice, pierced through the cozy warmth. Without warning, her head snapped up. The air thickened. A guttural roar, more felt than heard, vibrated through the very floorboards, shaking her bones. It wasn't human. It was something wild, untamed, something that echoed the beast in her nightmares. Her hands, clutching a heavy, leather-bound tome, trembled violently. A sudden vision assaulted her, a massive, shadowed figure, impossibly fast, sprinting through a dense, primeval forest, its golden eyes burning with an almost predatory intensity. Her breath caught. Seraphina gasped, nearly dropping the book. Because of that, a cascade of forgotten novels tumbled from the shelf, crashing to the wooden floor with a deafening thud. "Rena, everything all right over there?" Mr. Henderson, the kindly, bespectacled owner, called out from behind a towering stack of new arrivals. Panic clawed at her throat. Just a little clumsy, Mr. Henderson," she stammered, her voice thin and reedy. Her face flushed hot with embarrassment because she hated drawing attention to herself. As a result, she quickly bent down, trying to gather the fallen books, her hands still shaking. She could feel the lingering energy, a cold prickle on her skin, because the vision had been too real. Her heart hammered so loudly, she feared Mr. Henderson could hear it. This was getting worse. Not only that, but the sensations were no longer confined to her dreams. They were bleeding into her waking world, making her feel exposed, vulnerable. She didn't know what to do. She only knew she had to hide it. Still, a strange, inexplicable pull, like an invisible string, tugged at her, urging her towards something unknown, something ancient. It was a terrifying sensation, because it felt like a part of her was calling out to something monstrous. After that, she spent the rest of the shift hyper-aware, her senses on high alert, jumpy at every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind. The world seemed to hold its breath. When her name left his lips, calling her for lunch, she flinched, the sound startling her because she'd been so lost in her own head. Seraphina forced a smile, her eyes darting nervously towards the large, grimy window, as if expecting something, or someone, to appear from the ordinary street outside. That night, the living room felt stifling, heavy with an unspoken tension Seraphina couldn't shake. Lily was engrossed in a cartoon, her innocent laughter a stark contrast to the churning anxiety in Seraphina's stomach. Her mother, restless on the sofa, clicked through TV channels with the remote, her gaze distant and troubled. Seraphina, ostensibly reading a novel, kept glancing at the news ticker on the screen, a cold dread twisting inside her because of the afternoon's disturbing vision. Soon after, a local news bulletin interrupted the sitcom. Unusual animal activity reported in the Blackwood Preserve. The anchor's voice announced, grave and hushed. Several hikers have gone missing, and strange large tracks have been discovered. The screen flashed grainy images, overturned tents, claw marks scored deep into ancient trees, and then a fleeting, almost imperceptible shot of a massive footprint, too big, too defined for any known animal. Seraphina's blood ran cold. Her heart skipped. It was exactly like the paw print from her most recent dream, massive and terrifying. Just like that, a primal tremor, deep and resonant, vibrated through the floorboards. It wasn't an earthquake. It was something else, something alive. Her teacup rattled on the coffee table. A beat later, Lily, oblivious, giggled at her cartoon, but Seraphina saw her mother's eyes, wide and unnervingly alert, snap towards the window. Her mother had felt it too. But why? This strange connection, this unspoken understanding between them, was an open loop Seraphina couldn't close. What was her mother hiding? As the wind shifted outside, rattling the window panes, Seraphina felt it, clear as day, a profound, almost magnetic pull. An unseen presence, immense and powerful, was drawing closer, like a shadow stretching across the land. Her wolf stirred, a growl rising in her throat, a sensation she couldn't understand because she wasn't a wolf. It was a terrifying, exhilarating pulse that seemed to answer the unseen force. A single glance at her mother confirmed a shared fear, a deep-rooted knowledge. Her mother's face was pale, her gaze fixed on the darkening window, not with the curiosity of a worried citizen, but with the quiet, resigned terror of someone who recognized a monster. In that moment, the room seemed to shrink, the air thick with unspoken secrets. Seraphina knew deep down that her quiet human world was teetering on the edge. The dreams, the tremors, the news reports, they were all threads weaving into a terrifying tapestry. As the sky darkened outside, painting the window in shades of bruised purple and ominous black, she felt the very ground beneath their apartment hum with an energy that promised chaos because the wolf was coming. The forest floor beneath Seraphina's feet vanished. One moment she was walking the familiar path, the scent of damp earth and pine filling her nose. The next, a shadow detached itself from the ancient oak, huge and terrifying. Her blood ran cold, a glacial river through her veins, because fear was an icy fist squeezing her heart. Before she could even blink, a man stood before her. He was tall, impossibly broad, with hair as black as a moonless night and eyes that glowed, a molten gold. They were the same eyes from her dreams. Her breath caught. This was it. Mine. The word rumbled, deep and ancient, not spoken, but vibrating through her very bones. His voice was raw power, like a storm brewing just beneath the surface. And just like that, he reached for her. His hand, warm and impossibly strong, closed around her wrist. A shockwave, searing hot and intensely familiar, shot up her arm, straight to her heart. It was a jolt of recognition so profound it stole her breath. Her immediate goal, her primal instinct, was to rip away, to run until her lungs burned, because this man, this thing, was everything she'd tried to bury. "Let go," she gasped, her voice a thin, reedy whisper against the roaring in her ears. She struggled fiercely, twisting, but his grip was like iron bands. She didn't know what scared her more, his terrifying strength or the unsettling pull, a deep, undeniable longing that sparked between them. He didn't release her. Instead, his golden eyes, burning with an almost predatory intensity, bored into hers. "You are the lost Luna," he stated, his words a heavy weight. "My fated mate. The prophecy is clear." Seraphina shook her head wildly, tears stinging her eyes. "No, you're wrong. I'm just Seraphina." She wanted to shout, to scream, but a strange energy bloomed beneath her skin, making her tremble. It was a familiar feeling, yet utterly overwhelming now that he was near. "You've been hiding," he murmured, his thumb stroking her pulse point, a surprisingly gentle gesture that sent shivers down her spine. "But you cannot hide from destiny. The curse. It demands you." He pulled her closer, the sheer force of his presence consuming her. His scent, a rich blend of forest, rain, and something musky and wild, filled her lungs. It was intoxicating. Her chest ached. She knew deep down that her carefully constructed human world had just imploded. There was no going back. Who are you?" she stammered, despite herself. His lips curled, a dark, dangerous smile. "I am Cassian, and you are mine." The air thickened around them, charged with a potent, ancient magic. What followed was a blur of shadows and speed. She felt him shift, not in form, but in essence, a wave of raw power emanating from him. Before she could move, before she could even think, the world spun. And then, everything changed. The world solidified around Seraphina, no longer a blur but a stark, cold reality. She was in a room dimly lit by flickering torches, built from rough-hewn timber, not the ornate castle from her dreams. Her heart still pounded so loudly, it echoed in her ears. Her wrist still tingled where Cassian had held her. He stood across the room, watching her with that same unnerving, golden gaze, his stance rigid, like a wild animal coiled to strike. Where am I?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You are safe," Cassian replied, his tone as unyielding as granite. "Within a secure location. You are protected." Seraphina scoffed, a shaky, disbelieving sound. "Protected? You kidnapped me. I'm a prisoner." Fury propelled Rory through the jungle, but here, fury trapped Seraphina. She glared at him because she refused to be a pawn in his ancient games. Her immediate goal was to assert her autonomy, to let him know she wouldn't break. "I have a family. They'll be worried sick. Let me go." He took a step closer, his eyes darkening. "Your family is now aware. Their existence, exposed by your presence, places them in danger. Only here can they be truly safe. With me." The casual dismissal of her pleas, the implication that her very existence was a risk to her loved ones, cut through her shock. You put them in danger," she accused, her voice rising, thick with betrayal and fear. Her chest ached. "What are you? What is this prophecy?" He paused, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, a brief, fleeting vulnerability. "I am Lycan. My people are afflicted by an ancient curse. You, lost Luna, are the key to our salvation." He spoke of it with a grave, heavy burden, as if carrying the weight of centuries on his broad shoulders. But then, his face hardened again, the ruthless king reasserting himself. "You will stay here. It is for your own good, for theirs." This was not a request, it was a command, because he believed he knew best. "My good?" Seraphina's laughter was brittle, devoid of humor. "My good is being free. My good is being with my mother and sister." She knew deep down he wasn't lying about the danger, but she hated his methods. His possessiveness clashed with her fierce independence, a burning, undeniable tension filling the air between them. Even so, despite that, the faint image from her dream of Cassian's fleeting vulnerability whispered in her mind. It was a contradiction, an open loop of emotional complexity. She felt it, clear as day, that there was more to him than just the ruthless king. As the silence stretched, she took a shaky breath, realizing she might be trapped, but her spirit refused to be broken. The argument died, leaving a heavy silence in the timber room. Cassian turned, moving towards a heavy, reinforced window set high in the wall. The rough-hewn wood was impenetrable, clearly designed to keep something or someone inside. Seraphina followed, drawn by a morbid curiosity. What followed was a sight that stole the air from her lungs. Through the narrow slit, she saw it. A Lycan warrior, no older than herself, writhing on the ground, his skin covered in dark, spiderweb-like veins, a low, pained groan escaping his lips. His eyes, once golden, were now clouded with agony. "The curse," Cassian stated, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "It consumes us, slowly, painfully." He gestured towards the afflicted warrior with a grim sweep of his hand. He was once a formidable fighter, loyal and strong. Now, he succumbs. Seraphina's stomach churned. This wasn't some abstract threat. It was real, visceral, decaying the very essence of these powerful beings. It was horrifying because it was consuming them from the inside out. Her heart ached for the suffering Lycan, despite her fear of his kind. "And you think I can stop that?" she whispered, the enormity of his claim finally hitting her. He merely nodded, his golden eyes fixed on the distant dark forest, not on her. "You are the lost Luna. The prophecy speaks of your power, your lineage." His words were heavy, carrying the weight of generations like a burden passed down through time. Because of that, Seraphina felt the chill of her family's unspoken history, a new layer to her own lineage that terrified her. She thought of her mother's knowing gaze, the flicker of ancient truth. Was her mother too touched by this? He turned back to her, his gaze intense. "There is no going home, Seraphina." His name, when he spoke it, felt foreign, too intimate on his lips. "You have been revealed. The council, they know of you now. They are treacherous, and they will seek to control you, to sever our bond." He spoke of a council as if they were a known enemy, another open loop in this terrifying new world. "Here, you are safe. Here, we can break this curse together." He emphasized, together, but his tone still held the undertone of a command. Rather than argue, Seraphina stared at the thick, protective window, then back at Cassian, a powerful, ruthless king burdened by a dying race. Her human life, her ordinary world, was truly gone. She saw the vast, untamed forest, a living barrier separating her from everything familiar. She felt it, clear as day, that she was trapped. But then, a flicker of defiance sparked within her. Her family. She had to protect them. And if being here, in this cage, was the only way, then so be it. Her new immediate goal was terrifyingly clear: adapt, survive, and somehow figure out how to use this terrifying connection for her own ends. The air thickened. A strangled gasp ripped from Seraphina's throat, tasting of dust and fear. Not just any dust, but the ancient, hallowed dust of the old den, the very heart of the stronghold's forbidden ruins, where the oldest Lycan secrets whispered in the crumbling stone. She stumbled, clutching Cassian's arm, her vision blurring, because the air here was thick with forgotten magic, suffocating her with images that were not her own, yet felt undeniably familiar. Her head throbbed, a drumbeat of a forgotten past trying to claw its way back. The ancient curse, now a palpable choking presence, pulsed around them, a black cloud pressing down, its insidious tendrils seeking to extinguish any hope. What's worse, the council's chilling pronouncement, that only a true sacrifice could appease the curse, echoed in her mind, a terrifying lie that had driven them to this desperate place. "Seraphina, look at me." Cassian's voice, a low, desperate plea, cut through the mental fog, his golden eyes blazing with fierce concern. He held her face, his thumbs brushing her tear-streaked cheeks. His protective instincts were on fire, because he could feel her unraveling, caught between two worlds. He knew deep down that she had to face this alone, but his every fiber yearned to shield her. "Breathe, love. You are stronger than this. Remember what we talked about. The strength isn't just outside, it's in here." He tapped her chest gently, his voice a balm. She felt it, clear as day, his unwavering support, a lifeline in the swirling chaos of her mind. But then, a raw, primal scream tore from her. The world tilted, spinning violently. A rush of images assaulted her. A mother's terrified face, a small, laughing child with bright, familiar eyes, her own. And then, the chilling glint of a ceremonial dagger, meant for a sacrifice. It wasn't just a memory. It was the memory, sharp and terrifying. Her family, not just descendants of magic users, but intended sacrifices to initially power the curse, not break it. The council had twisted the ancient prophecies because they wanted control, not liberation. She felt the searing pain, the betrayal, the sheer, crushing weight of manipulation. The space between them burned with the inferno of her revelation. Her bones remembered him, a shadowy figure twisting the sacred rites. In that moment, a profound understanding dawned, cold and clear. The council hadn't wanted the curse broken. They'd wanted to control it, using her family's life force as a battery for their power. Seraphina's initial goal to merely recover her memories shifted. Now, it was to reclaim her power, not just for herself, but to undo a millennia of lies and save her entire bloodline, living and dead. As the truth unraveled, a furious protective growl rose in her throat. She looked at Cassian, her eyes no longer filled with fear, but with a fierce, unwavering resolve. Her heart skipped a beat, then hammered with a new purpose. "I understand," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. "I know what I have to do." With every heartbeat, her power stirred, awakening from its slumber. The air thickened, crackling with an energy that made the ancient stones of the old den vibrate. Seraphina stepped forward, away from Cassian, her previous terror replaced by a chilling clarity, because understanding brought power. Her inner wolf, once a vague whisper, now pressed forward, a powerful golden presence surging beneath her skin. She felt it, clear as day, the formidable power awakening within her, a dormant force finally unleashed. The treacherous council, led by Elder Valerius, emerged from the shadows of the ruins, their faces a mask of cruel satisfaction. "You understand, Luna," Valerius sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "That the only way to appease the curse is to join your ancestors in the sacrifice." His words were meant to break her, but they only ignited her fury. "No," Seraphina countered, her voice low but resonant, carrying through the cavernous space. Her internal monologue screamed with the realization. They twisted the prophecy. They twisted everything. Her core strength, that fierce independence, now channeled into raw, untamed magic. She raised her hand, not in surrender, but in defiance. The sacrifice was never for appeasement. but for activation. To lock the curse, using my bloodline as a key. And now, I am the key to unlocking it. Not for you, Valerius, for my people, for our people. The energy swirling around her intensified, pulling at the very fabric of reality. Cassian watched, transfixed, his eyes wide with awe, his own Lycan power pulsing in response to hers, because her awakening was purifying him too. "Foolish girl," Valerius snarled, launching himself forward, his form blurring as he shifted, transforming into a massive, grizzled wolf, teeth bared. His pack members followed, a wave of snarling, ancient Lycans driven by desperation and the Council's twisted truths. Their collective goal, to stop her, to silence the lost Luna and maintain their deceitful power. But then, as fire bloomed beneath her skin, Seraphina's eyes blazed golden, mirroring Cassian's. She didn't shift. She transcended. Wisps of moonlight wove around her, forming protective shields, pushing back against the encroaching darkness of the curse and the physical onslaught of the rogue Lycans. This was no mere magic. This was the raw, untamed power of the lost Luna. With a single glance, Seraphina sent a shockwave of pure energy rippling outwards, not destructive, but purifying. It slammed into Valerius, ripping through the curse's hold on him, forcing him back into his human form, eyes wide with terror as the ancient deception shattered. The air cleared, the oppressive weight lifting. His roar turned into a choked gasp, because the curse that had corrupted his bloodline, that had driven his dark ambition, was being cleansed. One by one, the other council members fell, not harmed, but freed from the ancient sickness that had twisted their souls, leaving them stunned and vulnerable. Her power, now fully embraced, didn't just break the ancient curse. It purified Cassian's own Lycan bloodline, enhancing his abilities, causing a profound ripple through his very essence. In the quiet that followed, her voice trembled, not with fear, but with the boundless power she now wielded. The raw power still thrummed in Seraphina's veins, a harmonious symphony of magic and life. The old den, once a place of oppressive secrets, now hummed with a light, renewed energy, because the ancient curse had lifted, leaving behind only the ghost of its malevolence. Cassian, still human but now radiating an almost blinding aura of strength and clarity, took a step towards her. His face, once etched with the torment of centuries, was smooth, calm, filled with an unwavering devotion that replaced his earlier obsession. His Lycan eyes, now a vibrant, pure gold, met hers, reflecting the limitless love that bloomed between them. The space between them burned, not with tension, but with an intoxicating promise. "My Luna," he whispered, his voice deep and reverent, unlike the commanding tone she'd first known. He reached for her, his touch now gentle, tender, yet still filled with an undeniable passion. She felt it, clear as day, the pure, unadulterated strength flowing from him, now untainted by the curse. Their deep emotional connection, forged in terror and defiance, was now sealed through shared sacrifice and the realization that their souls were irrevocably intertwined. He was no longer just the king who took, but the mate who cherished, and she, the Luna who empowered. Their hands clasped, a spark of pure, undiluted power leaping between them, intertwining their destinies. Outside the ruins, the pack gathered, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning hope. They had witnessed the purification, felt the lifting of the curse. The traitorous council members, now stripped of their dark influence, knelt, humbled and vulnerable, their eyes clearing from the haze of the ancient malady. Cassian looked at them, not with wrath, but with a newfound wisdom and compassion, because Seraphina's love had transformed him, turning his ruthless streak into benevolent justice. "The curse is broken," his voice boomed, powerful and clear, resonating with a renewed authority that commanded not just loyalty, but respect. "And our Luna, Seraphina, has saved us all." The wind carried his name, intertwining with hers. A wave of cheers erupted, echoing through the revitalized forest. They were free. Their race, once decaying, was reborn, vibrant and strong. Seraphina stood proudly beside him, her presence regal, her power a formidable hum beside his. She was no longer just a phantom, but the embodiment of their future, leading them into a new era of prosperity, an era built on unconditional love and acceptance. Their fairy tale happily ever after was one of shared power, boundless love, and a united kingdom. As the sky darkened, bathing the stronghold in the soft glow of the moon, their eyes met again. Her soul answered, and just like that, everything changed, ushering in a destiny far grander than any dream. Okay, I understand. Let's make Act 4 truly complete with a powerful Scene 3, bringing Seraphina and Cassian's journey to its full, beautiful conclusion. A profound peace settled over the Lycan stronghold, a stark contrast to the churning dread that had once permeated its ancient stones. The curse, a parasitic entity, had been ripped from their very essence, leaving behind a vibrant hum of renewed life. Seraphina stood on the highest rampart, the morning wind, now carrying the scent of pine and fresh earth, whipping strands of her hair across her face, because she felt the profound shift in the world around them. Below, the Lycan pack moved with a newfound lightness, their forms sleek, their golden eyes clear and bright. A year had passed since her power, the lost Luna's formidable gift, had purified their bloodline, purging the corruption that had plagued them for centuries. Cassian joined her, his hand finding hers, his touch grounding and warm. He wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her flush against his side, because her presence was his anchor, the very core of his transformed reign. "Feel that, Luna," he murmured, his voice a low rumble against her ear filled with pride. The air breathes easier. His obsession had undeniably blossomed into unwavering devotion, because her love had not only saved his people but had reshaped his very soul, forging him into a benevolent and just ruler. They had faced monumental tasks together in this new era. The delicate reintegration of the former council members, humbled and stripped of their dark influence yet still holding centuries of knowledge, and the careful rebuilding of trust within a pack, long fractured by fear and manipulative lies. What followed was a meticulous, often challenging process of healing and growth. Seraphina, now his powerful Luna, stood proudly beside him, her intuitive wisdom balancing his primal strength in every decision. She had overseen the establishment of new training grounds, emphasizing not just raw power but controlled strength, strategy, and community spirit. The younger ones, she mused, watching a group of Lycan pups chase each other in the courtyard, their joyous yelps echoing up to them. They seem less burdened, less prone to the old angers. As if the curse had never touched them, their spirits soared with an unbridled freedom. That's why she focused so much on their education, because true power lay in understanding, not just might. But then a small argument broke out below. Two adolescent males, their bodies gangly with youth, snarling over a discarded training dummy. Just like that, Cassian tensed, a low growl forming in his chest, ready to intervene with the commanding authority he'd once relied upon. Instead, Seraphina's hand, gentle but firm, rested on his arm. "Give them space," she suggested, her voice soft, but resonating with calm authority. "Let them learn to mediate, not just dominate." He looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his pure golden eyes, then a slow, understanding smile spread across his face, because her guidance was shaping him into a better king. He nodded, and moments later the two young males, after a few more disgruntled growls, managed to resolve their dispute with a begrudging but genuine handclasp. This was their new era, one of shared power, boundless love, and a united kingdom, proving that true power lay in unconditional love and acceptance. That night, a soft, ethereal moonlight streamed through the vast arched windows of their private chambers, bathing the rich tapestries in hues of silver and deep indigo. The familiar roar of the forest outside was now a comforting lullaby, a stark, soothing contrast to the oppressive, fear-laden silence that had once filled these halls during Seraphina's initial captivity. She lay nestled against Cassian, listening to the steady, powerful beat of his heart beneath her ear, because it was a rhythm of peace, a melody of home she'd never truly known until him. His arm was a warm, secure weight around her, his fingers idly tracing patterns on her skin, sending delicious shivers of pure contentment through her very core. Their love wasn't merely a fiery passion, it was a deep, unwavering current, a quiet, unyielding strength flowing endlessly between them. "Still thinking, my Luna," Cassian murmured, his voice thick with the drowsy contentment of a fulfilled Lycan. His golden eyes, luminous even in the deep shadows, opened to meet hers, holding a galaxy of affection. There were no more shadows haunting them, no unspoken burdens or ancient curses to hide. All their secrets, their fears, their lost memories had been laid bare, embraced, and intricately interwoven into the vibrant tapestry of their shared life. Her initial goal, to merely protect her small human family, had expanded exponentially, now encompassing the protection and prosperity of an entire thriving Lycan race, a destiny she cherished beyond measure because it was intrinsically shared with him. Just everything. Seraphina sighed contentedly, burrowing deeper into his embrace, inhaling the comforting scent of him, ancient forest, clean musk, and pure Lycan. She thought of her human family, safely oblivious to the supernatural world, yet well provided for and often visited. Their connection, no longer a burden, was now a beautiful bridge between two worlds, because she no longer feared her true identity, embracing both her human roots and her powerful Luna heritage. She thought of the little Lycan pup, Ilara, who reminded Seraphina so much of herself, curious, strong, and with eyes that held a sparkling hint of wild, untamed magic. Maybe it was fate that such a small, seemingly fragile human girl had been destined to save them all, not with brute force but with a pure heart and forgotten power. With every heartbeat, a new, tender future unfolded before them, vast and full of promise. Cassian brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, his touch reverent, his gaze filled with adoration. "A new beginning," he said, his voice husky with profound emotion. "For all of us, Seraphina." He leaned down, placing a soft, lingering kiss on her forehead, a promise whispered against her skin, sealed by the undeniable thrum of their bond. The tension broke, dissolving into the quiet intimacy of their unbreakable connection. As the bond pulsed, a comforting warmth spread through her, echoing the promise of forever, of endless possibilities. Her world tilted, but this time it was towards boundless joy and infinite possibility, because she felt it, clear as day. This was not just an ending, but a beautiful, ever-expanding new chapter, a testament to the fact that true power indeed lay in unconditional love and acceptance. The grand hall of the stronghold, once echoing with somber silence or hushed whispers of dissent, now vibrated with the joyous sounds of celebration. Banners woven with silver and gold, the colors of the purified Lycan bloodline, hung from the towering arches because today marked the first full moon festival under Cassian and Seraphina's unified rule. Laughter, clear and unburdened, mingled with the aroma of roasted meats and sweet berries. Seraphina moved through the throng, a vision in moonlight white, her hand never far from Cassian's. Her spirit soared, lighter than she'd ever imagined possible. Cassian, too, seemed to radiate a newfound ease. He engaged with his people, listening intently, his golden eyes reflecting genuine interest rather than guarded command. His voice, once gruff with the weight of ancient burdens, now held a deep resonance of contentment and benevolent authority. He was the king their legends foretold, a true leader, because Seraphina's love had unlocked his purest potential. Not only that, but her presence beside him, calm and powerful, solidified the pact's acceptance of their human Luna. They understood now that she was the bringer of their peace, the very embodiment of their future. Even so, a hush fell as Cassian took her hand, drawing her to the center of the hall. He raised his voice, not in a command, but a declaration. A year ago, we were shrouded in darkness. Today, we stand in light thanks to the unwavering courage of our Luna. He looked at Seraphina, his gaze burning with an intensity that pulled at her soul, an echo of their first terrifying, wonderful meeting. She reminds us that our strength comes not just from our claws and fangs, but from the bonds we forge and the love we nurture. His words were a testament, a powerful parallel to her own journey of embracing vulnerability and fierce independence. The pack roared its approval, a sound of unified power and profound gratitude. Seraphina's eyes scanned the faces, the older Lycans, their torment eased, the young, their futures bright. And in the back, even a few wary human villagers drawn by the new prosperity and the palpable sense of safety emanating from the stronghold. She felt it, clear as day, the culmination of everything. With every heartbeat, she knew they had built something enduring, a legacy of light and love. As the mark on her skin tingled, a gentle pulse of their unbreakable bond, she looked at Cassian, a silent promise passing between them. And just like that, their fairy tale happily ever after was not just a story, but a living, breathing reality, a new dawn for all. The air in the forbidden northern forest pressed in, heavy with the scent of decay and ancient magic, a stark contrast to the revitalized woods surrounding the stronghold. Seraphina moved with a newfound purpose, her senses alive, because the elder's cryptic clue about memories locked by moonfire resonated deep within her, igniting a desperate hope. She needed answers. Her internal monologue buzzed with the need to understand her lineage, not just for herself, but for her family, whose faces now haunted her with the weight of her revelation. Cassian, initially reluctant, now walked beside her, his vigilance a palpable shield, his gaze sweeping the shadowy undergrowth. "Are you certain this is the only way?" Cassian rumbled, his voice a low growl of concern. His distrust of unknown magic, especially outside the stronghold's protection, was evident. Yet he was here, because her desperate urgency outweighed his caution, a testament to the deepening trust between them. Seraphina nodded, her eyes scanning ancient, gnarled trees that twisted like tortured souls. The scrolls mentioned a place where the first Luna communed with the ancient spirits. My memories. They feel tied to it. Her goal was clear. Unlock the truth, whatever the cost. She felt the ancient, inert relic from her dream, the one she'd recently found, now hum faintly against her skin, drawing her deeper. Suddenly, without warning, a creature, gaunt and grotesque, lunged from the shadows. It was a Lycan, but utterly corrupted by the curse's festering magic, its eyes burning with madness, its form distended and horrifying. A guttural shriek ripped from its throat because the curse made them feral, uncontrollable. Cassian roared, transforming in a blur of fur and muscle, a magnificent black wolf, sleek and powerful, between one breath and the next. He moved with primal speed, intercepting the diseased Lycan, but its sheer desperation, its maddened strength, was terrifying. Seraphina felt it, clear as day, a surge of panic for him. Her body moved on instinct. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, Seraphina unleashed a concentrated burst of pure energy, not powerful enough to destroy, but enough to stun the corrupted creature, momentarily halting its charge. Cassian seized the advantage, his fangs finding their mark, ending its suffering swiftly. He shifted back, panting, his gaze locking onto hers, filled with a raw vulnerability he rarely showed. "You saved me," he breathed, his voice rough. Her heart skipped. In that moment, they were not king and captive, but two souls bound by shared peril and growing affection. The tension broke, replaced by a profound mutual trust. And just like that, their connection deepened, irrevocably. The grand hall hummed with forced joviality, a thin veneer over simmering tension. The monthly Lycan gathering, usually a formal affair, felt like a powder keg, because the council's recent whispers about Seraphina had poisoned the air. Seraphina, standing beside Cassian, felt the wary, assessing glances of the Lycans, some curious, others overtly hostile. Her previous successes in healing small ailments and restoring crops had won her some favor, but the council sought to erase that. Her goal was to present herself with quiet dignity, to prove her worth through action, not simply Cassian's claim. Elder Valerius, his eyes still holding a reptilian glint despite his purification in Act 3, a subtle nod that true evil isn't just magical corruption but a twisted spirit, stepped forward. "My king," he began, his voice oily smooth, "we must address concerns regarding certain new influences." He gestured subtly at Seraphina, because his true goal was to publicly discredit her. He exposed a distorted truth about her family's ancient magic, twisting it to suggest it was not pure healing, but a source of unpredictable chaos, even implying it caused the curse in the first place or could unleash a new one. The crowd murmured, doubt rippling through them. Cassian's hand clenched at his side, a low growl vibrating in his chest, because he knew Valerius was manipulating the truth. He was about to interject to roar his defense. Instead, Seraphina stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she met Valerius's cruel smirk. "The ancient lineage is pure," she stated, her voice clear and strong, resonating with a newfound confidence that astonished many. She spoke of her recently remembered fragments, because they offered her clarity. It was suppressed and demonized by those who feared its power, those who sought to control, not heal. With every heartbeat her power stirred, responding to her righteous anger. Then, with a subtle, graceful movement, Seraphina extended her hand, and the very air around Valerius shimmered, revealing for a fleeting moment the faint, dark residue of the curse's influence still clinging to him, a subtle testament to his continued corruption beneath the veneer of purification. Not only that, but a nearby withered plant, a casualty of the curse's lingering effects, suddenly bloomed with vibrant, glowing flowers. The crowd gasped. Seraphina's counter-argument wasn't just words. It was a powerful display of truth and subtle magic that publicly challenged the council's authority and solidified the loyalty of many neutral Lycans. As the gathering dispersed, the subtle shift in loyalties was palpable. The phone call was a jarring intrusion, a discordant note in the fragile peace Seraphina had fought to build. Her younger sister's voice on the other end was shrill with terror, punctuated by sounds of breaking glass and panicked shouts. "Seraphina, they're here! They found us!" A cold dread, sharp as ice, pierced Seraphina's heart, because this was her ultimate fear realized. The council had found them. Despite Cassian's careful arrangements for their protection, his best guards, it wasn't enough. Her mother's pained cry echoed before the line went dead. The silence that followed was deafening, more terrifying than any roar. Seraphina dropped the phone, her hands trembling, her body shaking with a primal, visceral fear. Her immediate goal was singular: protect her family no matter the cost. Cassian rushed in, his golden eyes wide with alarm, having sensed her sudden distress. "What is it, Luna? What's happened?" he demanded, his voice laced with his own growing panic. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face, a profound, almost desperate love for her family overriding every other emotion. "They attacked my family, the council. They found them." Her deepest fear, the one that had haunted her for years, had manifested into a horrifying reality. A surge of protective fury, unlike anything he'd seen, radiated from her. The very air around Seraphina crackled with raw, untamed power, because her desperation fueled her abilities. Her internal monologue screamed, "No more hiding, no more hesitation." She grabbed Cassian's arms, her gaze burning into his. "I will break the curse. I will unleash everything I am, all my memories, all my power, to save your people." Her voice was fierce, resolute, shedding every last vestige of her previous resistance. "But you," she continued, her voice trembling but unwavering, "you pledged to me. You pledged to protect them, my mother, my sister, safe haven in your kingdom, forever, and you accept me as an equal, Not just your Luna, but your partner. Do you swear it? Cassian's eyes, filled with a mix of shock, awe, and desperate love, met hers. He saw the shift, the true embracing of her destiny, born not of prophecy, but of fierce, protective love. He was no longer just the king who claimed, but the mate who knelt, because her raw vulnerability and strength demanded absolute honesty. Without another word, he lowered his head, a rare gesture of profound humility and absolute acceptance, cementing their unbreakable bond. "I swear it, Luna," he rumbled, his voice thick with emotion. "On my life, on my Lycan soul." Her soul answered, and just like that, everything changed. The pact was sealed, the point of no return reached. A guttural scream of pure, corrupted energy tore through the ancient ritual chamber. Seraphina staggered, her senses assaulted by the metallic tang of ozone and a sickening chill that sank into her bones. Moments ago, the air had hummed with the pure, life-giving flow of her healing magic, guided by the rediscovered true ritual meant to shatter the curse. Cassian stood at her side, a towering bulwark of support, his golden eyes blazing with unwavering trust, his hand clasped firmly around hers. Their pact, sealed by desperation and a burgeoning love, hinged on this very second. But then a flicker of movement in the shadows, a glint of silver, too swift to fully register, yet undeniable. Suddenly the ancient relic meant to amplify her power didn't just malfunction, it writhed. It pulsed violently, then crackled with dark, corrupted energy, because a crucial element of the ritual had been sabotaged. A wave of blackness colder than any winter night surged from the artifact, slamming into Seraphina. Her pure magic, meant to heal, collided with this insidious corruption, tearing through her, leaving her weakened, gasping for breath. The ritual meant to break the curse instead caused it to accelerate and deepen with horrifying speed. Around them, Lycans already suffering cried out, their forms decaying visibly, shadows deepening under their eyes, their fur dulling to an ashen gray. "No, no!" Seraphina choked, dropping to her knees, her energy draining away like water through cracked earth. She felt it, clear as day, the crushing sense of failure, a cold dread that clung to her like a shroud, suffocating. Her heart hammered, not with power, but with despair. Cassian roared, instantly realizing the treachery. He spun, his Lycan senses pinpointing the retreating form of a lesser council member, a mere pawn, melting back into the hidden passages. His fury was a tangible force, a storm of primal rage threatening to erupt, but his priority was Seraphina. Instead, he turned back to her, his face a mask of raw, horrified concern. "Luna, are you hurt?" he demanded, rushing to her side. He tried to gather her into his arms, to shield her from the disaster that now enveloped the chamber. But then, Seraphina pushed him away, her hands pressed to her temples because a crushing wave of guilt and overwhelming fear consumed her. "I made it worse," she whispered, tears mingling with sweat on her face. "It's accelerating because of me." Her personal misbelief, that her power was a dangerous burden, resurfaced with terrifying clarity. What's worse, the image of her family's vulnerable faces flashed in her mind, accusingly. The air thickened with her despair, suffocating any remaining hope. The news reached Seraphina like a physical blow, colder and sharper than any magical backlash. A lone, wounded Lycan courier, his fur singed and limping, stumbled into the stronghold's inner courtyard, collapsing at their feet. His message, her human family's remote safe house despite Cassian's most loyal guards, had been attacked, not by rogues or wild animals, but by Lycans bearing the chilling sigil of the inner council's elite. Her mother was injured, her sister terrified. A raw, visceral scream tore from Seraphina's throat, tasting of pure anguish, because her deepest fear had manifested into a horrifying, undeniable reality. "Mother. Lily," she choked, the names catching in her throat, almost suffocating her because the agonizing distance, the utter helplessness, was a torment worse than any physical pain. Cassian's face contorted with fury, his golden eyes blazing with a dangerous primal light. He had sworn to protect them, and this was a direct affront to his authority, a blatant act of war from within his own ranks. He ordered immediate pursuit, his voice a thunderous roar that echoed through the stone halls, vibrating with vengeful promise. But then, Valerius, the insidious elder who seemed too keen on Seraphina's failure, stepped forward from the shadows, his voice, smooth and falsely sympathetic, cutting through the chaos like a poisoned blade. "Such a tragedy, my king," Valerius purred, a chilling smile playing on his lips designed to twist the knife. "Perhaps this lost Luna brings more chaos than healing. After all," he gestured subtly to the suffering Lycans around them, their forms racked with the accelerating curse. "Her pure ritual only deepened our pain, did it not? And now this attack on her human kin. Perhaps her lineage isn't a cure at all, but the very root of our affliction. A corrupted power destined only to destroy us all." His words were venom, strategically planted, meant to sprout a seed of insidious doubt in every listening Lycan heart. He held up a small, charred piece of wood, seemingly from the safe house, inscribed with a distorted dark symbol that vaguely resembled Seraphina's own ancestral mark. This was the engineered betrayal, cold and calculated. A ripple of profound unease spread through the assembled Lycans, their wary gazes turning towards Seraphina, because the false evidence, though circumstantial, was masterfully designed to exploit their deepest fears. Even Cassian's golden eyes held a flicker of doubt, a fleeting cloud of suspicion that pierced Seraphina's heart like a dagger made of ice. She saw his internal struggle, the agonizing conflict between his desperate love for her and his overriding need to save his suffering people. Her previous misbelief that her power would merely make her a pawn now twisted into a horrific accusation. She was the cause of their suffering. Her family's peril, combined with this unjust accusation, left her feeling utterly exposed, raw, and terrifyingly irrevocably alone. The vast royal chambers, usually a sanctuary of shared warmth and growing intimacy with Cassian, now felt like a gilded cage, cold and desolate, amplifying her despair. Seraphina huddled on the plush rug, her knees drawn to her chest, the weight of the castle pressing in on her like a tomb, stifling her very breath. Her voice was gone, choked by the profound despair that gnawed relentlessly at her soul. She felt it, clear as day. The crushing guilt, the bitter metallic taste of utter failure. Outside her reinforced window, the howls of the afflicted Lycans, sharper now, more desperate, pierced the night like a choir of sorrow, a horrifying symphony of suffering that twisted her gut with every note. Their pain was her pain, amplified and made unbearable by her devastating mistake. Her thoughts spun in a chaotic, dizzying whirlwind. Her mother, injured. Lily, terrified. All because Seraphina had dared to believe in a destiny, a power she now utterly distrusted. Was Valerius right? Was she, the lost Luna, truly cursed? Was her power, her very essence, tainted, destined only to bring destruction to everyone she loved? Her internal flaw, the deep-seated fear of losing herself to this overwhelming, dangerous magic, resurfaced with brutal, suffocating force. She traced the ancient charm the sympathetic elder had given her, but its faint warmth now felt mocking, a cruel reminder of a fleeting hope utterly extinguished. The bond with Cassian, once a vibrant, undeniable pulse, now felt strained, distant, a faint echo across an impossible chasm. "I can't," she whispered to the empty, echoing room, her voice hoarse, broken, barely audible. "I can't do this. Not anymore." Every fiber of her being screamed at her to abandon the agonizing fight, to retreat into oblivion, to somehow vanish and protect her loved ones by removing herself entirely, even if it meant sacrificing her own free will, her own life, becoming nothing more than a ghost. The hope of a happily ever after seemed utterly shattered, a fragile glass statue violently smashed on cold, unforgiving stone. She was a failure, a danger, a burden. Her ultimate goal had been to protect, but all she'd brought was peril and more excruciating pain. She didn't know what scared her more, the looming, malevolent threat of the council, the accelerating, grotesque curse consuming the Lycans, or the chilling, soul-crushing realization that she might indeed be the monster they painted her to be. As the silence roared around her, thick and suffocating, a profound sense of resignation settled over her, heavy and unyielding. She closed her eyes, willing herself into oblivion, seeking an escape from the relentless torment. The moon, usually her solace, her guiding light, now felt like a cold, mocking eye in the vast, uncaring sky. She felt utterly broken, consumed by despair, and just like that, the last flicker of hope seemed to fade, swallowed whole by the encroaching, absolute darkness. A faint, persistent warmth emanated from the ancient charm clutched in Seraphina's palm, cutting through the icy despair that had engulfed her. It was a tiny spark, yet it ignited a defiant flicker in the suffocating darkness of her mind. Her mother's injured face and Lily's terrified scream still haunted her, but now, they fueled a burning conviction. This wasn't her fault. This was the council's doing, a twisted, ancient manipulation that demanded exposure. The truth, she knew, had to be somewhere, waiting to be unearthed. Driven by this desperate, tenacious hope, Seraphina forced her weakened body to move. She gravitated towards a forgotten, dusty corner in the servants' wing, a place she'd stumbled upon weeks ago, sensing an inexplicable pull. There, concealed behind a loose stone in a crumbling fireplace, she found it, an ancient, uncorrupted scroll. Its brittle parchment, smelling faintly of dried herbs and forgotten time, trembled in her hands as she unrolled it. This felt profoundly significant, a lifeline thrown across centuries. The text, in an archaic Lycan dialect, spoke of the true history of her ancient lineage. Not a curse, but a pure, healing magic, distorted and demonized by greedy rulers who sought to suppress the lost Luna's power. It was all a monstrous lie, a carefully constructed deception that had poisoned their history. "They lied," Seraphina whispered, her voice raw but firm, tears welling, not from sorrow, but from a fierce, purifying fury that cleansed her soul. Her family wasn't tainted. They were sacred, carriers of a benevolent power. The scroll meticulously detailed how to truly break the curse and purify the bloodline, revealing a forgotten critical detail requiring a full, unwavering heart and an unyielding will. She felt it, clear as day, a powerful surge of renewed hope, determination, and fierce pride in her true lineage, shedding her misbelief about her power being a dangerous burden. Just like that, the very air around her hummed with a vibrant, resonant energy, her own power resonating with the ancient truth answering its call. Cassian found her then, drawn by the sudden, profound shift in the stronghold's magical resonance, his golden eyes, previously clouded by doubt and concern, now cleared, reflecting the brilliant, untamed light returning to hers. He saw the scroll, saw the raw, undeniable truth etched on her face. A raw, honest conversation followed, their words tumbling out, cleansing the air of the false accusations that had strained their bond. He pulled her into his arms, a desperate, healing embrace, their bond pulsing with renewed strength, radiating warmth. His earlier flicker of doubt vanished completely, replaced by absolute, unyielding trust, because her very essence radiated pure, undeniable truth. Together, they realized the true depth of the council's deception and the immense, untapped power of their combined bond, and a fierce, unwavering resolve settled between them. The revelation of her pure lineage and the true curse-breaking ritual burned like a radiant beacon in Seraphina's mind, a guiding light through the lingering shadows. She and Cassian stood before a small, hand-picked group of loyal Lycans, their faces etched with grim determination. These were the ones who had remained steadfast through the turmoil, those who had witnessed the council's subtle manipulations or been swayed by Seraphina's quiet courage and compassionate spirit throughout her tumultuous time in the stronghold. Their loyalty was not coerced, but deeply earned. Cassian, now fully trusting her judgment, his fierce pride in her palpable, introduced her not merely as his Luna, but as his strategic equal, a partner in the impending war. The council plots to let us wither, to control our very magic until we become nothing but their puppets, Seraphina stated, her voice steady and clear, resonating with a new kind of calm authority. She held up the ancient scroll, its words now luminous with her infused magic, radiating undeniable truth. This scroll, it speaks the truth of our past. My lineage is not a curse, but the key to our salvation. They twisted the prophecies because they feared what a true, unbridled Luna could truly do. She meticulously explained the refined ritual, its delicate, precise steps, and the critical timing needed to succeed. Her power, now fully connected to the ancient truth, flowed around her, subtly influencing the very air, imbuing her words with an undeniable conviction that swayed every heart present. "We strike at the lunar alignment," Cassian added, his voice a powerful roar that filled the chamber, sparking a fierce fire in the eyes of their loyalists. "When their corrupted power is at its deceptive peak, ours, if executed correctly, will be untouchable." Their final plan was daring, a multi-pronged assault meticulously designed to expose the council, unleash Seraphina's full purified power, and execute the complete ritual of purification simultaneously. It included strategically isolating key council members, sowing dissension among their unwitting followers, and preparing for a public confrontation that would leave no room for their insidious lies. Each Lycan in the room, from the seasoned warriors whose eyes had seen too much sorrow to the younger, eager initiates brimming with fresh hope, pledged their unwavering absolute loyalty. "We will draw them out," Cassian outlined, tracing a complex map on the ancient table with a powerful finger, his strategic brilliance undeniable. "And you, Luna." He looked at Seraphina, a profound respect, almost reverence in his gaze. "You will be the light that exposes them. Your voice will carry the truth, echoing through the ages." Seraphina felt a surge of empowering focus, a thrilling readiness for the battle ahead, because her purpose was now undeniable, etched into her very soul. She was no longer just the lost Luna. She was the defiant Luna, the beacon of hope, ready to lead the charge. As night began to fall, the air outside crackled with anticipation, and a faint, ethereal glow emanated from Seraphina's hands as she mentally prepared. Connecting with the ancient magic within her, her spirit forged anew. Under the chilling crimson glow of a rare lunar alignment, a blood moon hanging heavy and ominous in the inky sky, Seraphina and Cassian, with their carefully chosen loyalists, made their final, desperate move. The vast stronghold, usually bustling with life, was eerily quiet now, cloaked in a pervasive tension, because every shadow felt alive. Every distant howl held a sharpened note of anticipation. They moved through hidden passages, known only to the Lycan King, their footsteps muffled by the ancient dust-laden stone, their hearts pounding in a synchronized rhythm of fear and resolute courage. Seraphina led the way, guided by an instinct sharper and more reliable than any map, her senses alive to the subtle shifts in the castle's very aura, like a living organism. Her ultimate goal was to initiate the climax, to bring the undeniable truth to light, driven by absolute resolve and a fierce desire for justice and profound healing. She clutched the ancient charm, its warmth a steady pulse in her hand, a small but powerful beacon in the overwhelming, foreboding darkness. Cassian walked directly beside her, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back, a constant, comforting presence of unwavering support and shared determination. He was ready for anything, his every fiber taut with readiness, because his fierce love for her and for his people made him utterly fearless. They knew with a chilling certainty that a fierce battle, both physical and magical, awaited them in the council's inner sanctum. "Are you ready, Luna?" Cassian whispered, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, just before they reached the heavy concealed door to the council's illicit meeting chamber. His breath ghosted over her ear, sending thrilling shivers down her spine, not of fear, but of exhilarating, absolute readiness. She felt it, clear as day, the immense, undeniable gravity of the moment, the fate of an entire, suffering race resting squarely on her shoulders, on their shoulders. Her response was a single, resolute nod, her eyes burning with an inner fire. Her previous internal flaw, the debilitating fear of losing her free will, had vanished completely, replaced by an unbreakable conviction that this was her destiny, hers to command, hers to wield. Without another word, Cassian, with a single powerful kick, shattered the concealed door from its ancient frame. The scene within was a horrifying tableau of malevolent power. The treacherous council, led by Valerius, stood gathered around a dark, pulsing altar, their faces contorted in sinister glee, completely unaware of the impending storm that was about to break. Valerius, startled, turned, his eyes blazing with incandescent fury as he recognized Seraphina and Cassian. "You fools!" he snarled, his voice echoing with malicious triumph. In that very moment, a shimmering magical barrier erupted between them, a formidable wall of crackling dark energy, signaling the immediate explosive start of the climax, the final, ultimate confrontation. Seraphina braced herself, her purified powers surging, ready to meet their destructive fury with her own, fueled by pure light and unyielding truth. A searing flash of light erupted from Seraphina, shattering Valerius's dark magical barrier like fragile glass. Shards of crackling energy rained down, because her power, fully embraced and purified, was an unstoppable force. She lunged forward, not in a chaotic burst, but with a focused, controlled fury that pulsed with ancient light. Her ultimate goal was singular, to defeat the council and break the curse definitively, saving both the Lycans and her precious human family. Valerius roared, his face contorted in disbelief and rage as Seraphina met his raw, corrupted magic with her own pristine energy. The confrontation transformed the council chamber into a maelstrom of light and shadow, sound and fury. Seraphina moved with a fierce grace, deflecting their panicked spells, her hands weaving intricate patterns that called forth pure moonlight. Her previous misbelief that her power was a burden had vanished entirely, replaced by a radiant confidence. She didn't just fight, she projected the truth, forcing images of the council's deceit, the twisted prophecies, the sabotaged ritual, the attack on her family, into the minds of the assembled Lycans, exposing their treachery for all to see. Murmurs of outrage rippled through the loyalist pack members who had infiltrated the chamber. Meanwhile, Cassian fought like a storm, a blur of fur and muscle against the council's remaining physical forces. He was a force of unwavering devotion, his roars of defiance echoing as he defended Seraphina, his body a living shield against any Lycan foolish enough to approach her. He moved with a speed and power even greater than before, because Seraphina's purification of his bloodline had enhanced his abilities beyond anything he'd ever known. He was her king, her protector, and her fierce, equal partner. They moved as one, an unstoppable force, a symphony of light and raw Lycan strength. With a final guttural cry, Seraphina channeled the ancient magic into the very stone of the altar. She initiated the true ritual, her power surging, pure and untainted, shattering the curse's hold on the Lycan race. The dark energy recoiled, shriveling into nothingness. Not only that, but a wave of revitalizing energy washed over the Lycans, and the air filled with an audible sigh of collective relief and reverence. Cassian's own bloodline pulsed, vibrant and clear. As the council's power crumbled and Valerius screamed in impotent rage, the central question of her embracing her power was answered definitively, echoing through the revitalized stronghold. A profound silence descended upon the chamber, broken only by the ragged breaths of the council members and the quiet, reverent murmurs of the liberated Lycans. The curse was gone, banished, leaving behind a lightness in the air, a clean, fresh scent of ozone and triumph. Seraphina, still glowing faintly with residual magic, felt a wave of immense relief wash over her. followed by a joyous exhaustion that settled deep in her bones. Her immediate goal was to ensure justice was served and healing could begin for all. Cassian, now fully human, stood beside her, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining in a silent, profound understanding. The defeated council members, their faces pale and their eyes stripped of their malevolent cunning, were apprehended by Cassian's loyalists. Their crimes, meticulously revealed by Seraphina's magic, were laid bare to the wider Lycan populace, who greeted the news with a mix of shock, righteous anger, and overwhelming relief. Truth be told, their reign of deception had poisoned the pack for too long. Seraphina then used her healing magic, a gentle, shimmering light, to tend to the lingering effects of the curse on some of the more afflicted Lycans, their pain easing under her touch. She felt their gratitude, a warm, humbling wave that confirmed her place among them. Soon after, a tearful reunion unfolded in the stronghold's main hall. Her mother, still a little pale but recovering, and Lily, wide-eyed but safe, were brought to the castle. Lily rushed into Seraphina's arms, burying her face in her sister's shoulder. "I knew you'd come," she whispered, her small voice choked with relief. Her mother for the first time saw Seraphina not just as her daughter, but as something more, something powerful, because the truth of their lineage, once a guarded secret, was finally revealed. It was a terrifying reality, but also a source of shared, profound connection. Seraphina knelt, pulling her family close, feeling their warmth, their safety. This was the ultimate payoff for everything she'd endured. Later, as the moon climbed high in the sky, she shared a moment of quiet, profound relief and exhaustion with Cassian. Their hands remained clasped, their bond irrevocably sealed by shared sacrifice, by facing the darkness together and emerging into the light. The emotional weight of the day was immense, yet beneath it, a deep, abiding peace took root. Their world, once shattered, was now meticulously, beautifully, being put back together. Weeks later, the Lycan kingdom flourished under the joint benevolent leadership of King Cassian and Queen Seraphina. The stronghold hummed not just with activity, but with genuine joy, its stones vibrating with new life. Seraphina, now fully confident and powerful as the Luna, moved through the halls and courtyards with a regal grace, her presence a calming, strengthening force. She worked tirelessly alongside Cassian to integrate her human family into their world. Her mother and sister chose to stay, finding unexpected peace and purpose within the stronghold's protective walls. Not only that, but new, compassionate laws for Lycan society were established, promoting understanding, healing, and unity between all beings. Their relationship was now one of shared power, boundless love, and deep, mutual respect. Cassian, transformed by her love, ruled with a wisdom and fairness that amazed even his oldest advisors. His golden eyes, once marked by a primal possessiveness, now held an unwavering, respectful devotion, reflecting the boundless love he felt for his Luna. He listened to her counsel, valued her insights, and cherished her partnership. He had become the king their legends truly foretold, because he was no longer burdened by the curse or manipulated by fear. One crisp autumn evening, Seraphina stood proudly beside Cassian on a newly built balcony overlooking the vast, thriving kingdom, a true sanctuary for both Lycans and their human allies. The air smelled of damp earth and distant wood smoke, carried on a gentle breeze. Her mother and sister, now comfortably integrated and thriving, were seen nearby in the courtyard, their laughter carrying faintly on the wind, a sweet melody of normalcy and safety. Seraphina smiled, a genuine, radiant expression of pure contentment. She felt it, clear as day. She had found her true home, her true purpose. Cassian gently pulled Seraphina closer, his devotion radiating from him like warm sunlight. He brought her hand to his lips, a gesture of profound respect and endless love, no longer possessive but entirely honoring. She touched his face, tracing the strong line of his jaw, a silent acknowledgement of the profound transformation they'd both undergone. She whispered about the future, about the generations yet to come, knowing their unbreakable bond had not only healed an ancient race, but had forged a legacy of love and unity that would endure for generations. The true power of the lost Luna, once feared and hidden, now shone brightest, a beacon of hope for all. The moon, full and brilliant, hung in the sky, blessing their united kingdom. Epilogue. Years later, the Lycan kingdom was a testament to their enduring love and leadership. The stronghold, once a fortress of secrets, pulsed as a vibrant heart, its gates open to human travelers seeking trade and knowledge, because the age of fear had ended. Seraphina, her hair now streaked with graceful silver, stood beside a powerfully mature Cassian on their moonlit balcony. He was no longer the brooding king, but a pillar of wisdom and strength, his golden eyes reflecting a boundless peace. Her mother, though frail, watched from a nearby garden bench, holding the hand of a strong, compassionate lily, both thriving within the protected realm, their lives intertwined with the Lycans. "Look at what we built, Luna," Cassian murmured, his arm a secure embrace around her waist. His voice resonated with quiet pride, because their shared purpose had blossomed into true prosperity. He was a benevolent ruler, revered by all, his leadership guided by the balance of primal instinct and compassionate understanding that only Seraphina could inspire. She turned in his arms, her gaze sweeping over the thriving lands below, seeing Lycan pups playing alongside human children, a sight once deemed impossible. She touched his face, her fingers tracing the familiar lines, a silent communication passing between them, a symbol of the profound transformation they'd undergone, both individually and together. "Our legacy," she whispered, her voice soft but powerful, "is not just a kingdom, but a family, a true unity." Her heart swelled with gratitude. She had embraced her true, formidable power and accepted a love that demanded her entire being, without losing herself or sacrificing the family she desperately sought to protect. In fact, she had found herself, and them, more completely than she ever thought possible. Their bond, once sparked by prophecy and fear, had evolved into a timeless, boundless love, a beacon that had healed an ancient race and forged a legacy of unity that would endure for generations. The true power of the lost Luna, once feared and hidden, now shone brightest, a beacon of hope for all. As the full moon bathed them in its gentle light, their breaths mingled, their souls entwined, knowing their story was only just beginning, forever etched into the heart of their united kingdom. Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed what you saw, we've got a whole library of other videos packed with more great content just like this waiting for you on our channel. So why not dive into another one right now? And hey, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on our next upload, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We'd love to have you join our community and see you in the next video. Thanks again.